welcome. So last week was pretty bad, atrocious I think is the word that I used, because I had to delete words and I was refusing to do that. But by the end of the week I had deleted the words, and so I started this new week on a clean slate and I could just write, and that is actually what I did. And it's been such a great week of writing. So Monday was a public holiday, which means I had a lot more time than I usually do. So I was able to sit down, knuckle down, and finally get the chapter that I was struggling with, which was actually the reason that I was like deleting words, rewriting, that whole shebang. I was finally able to just sit down and get it right, and I did get it right. And I should say that all the writing and rewriting and deleting directly affected my getting it right. I had to get all the things, like write a thing and be like, actually this doesn't work, and delete it and write something else that this doesn't work, because it can feel like all those deleted words are wasted effort, but they are not. They are not. They're all part of helping make the product. So that's an encouragement to myself, and I hope that's an encouragement to you as well. Anyway, on Monday I managed to write more words than usual, and I don't know whether I actually went over the 30-minute limit, because by the time I was writing on Monday, words were flowing. The chapter was, things clicked, and I was like, okay, yes, this is what I'm trying to do. So anyway, words were flowing and I managed to write 1,053 words. And because I actually haven't gotten to the thousands before, that's why I'm like, did I do more than 30 minutes? I probably did do more than 30 minutes, but I don't think it was more than an hour. So yeah, clickety clacked, and I did those 1,053 words, which was really great. So on Tuesday I was back to work, but I did sit down still. Not sit down, I guess it is sit down. I don't sit down at a table. I don't sit down at a table. So I'm like, what? Anyway, I did wake up and I did write, and I think I was still finishing the chapter. So the chapter wasn't finished, but the hurdle that I was trying to get over, I did manage to get over on Monday. So Tuesday's writing was pretty easy in the way where work is easy. So like not easy, but easier than when I was trying to get over the hump. So on Tuesday I wrote 597 words, which brought the total word count to 17,978 words, which was great because finally we were back over the previous, I think previously I also had 17 something, perhaps 17,700 words when I had to delete and go back to the 15,000. So finally, I was back to the 17,000s, which was great. Wednesday, there was a bit of a dip. There was a bit of a dip. I lay in bed. I had a sleep in, which is sloth. It's sloth. I make no excuses. I did that, and I also procrastinated. Which again, sloth is procrastination, but I also procrastinate. I was listening to a talk of a lady where she was talking about sloth and the sinfulness of sloth, and she was saying that sloth also isn't just not doing something, it's doing something that you, besides like the whole wasting time on social media and whatever, but it's doing a task that you, when you're supposed to be doing other tasks. So it could be reading a separate book when you're supposed to be reading another book for class. So anyway, that is what I did. I lay in bed and did some other task that, instead of doing the task that I was supposed to be doing, which was the writing thing, so I didn't do that. And I only had enough time to write for 15 minutes, which I did write, and I managed to write 384 words, which shows that I could have written 500 words if I actually had the 30 minutes. And so it's like, lady, you need to get out of bed and be consistent with the work that the Lord has placed before you and doing it well, which I didn't that day. But anyway, yeah, so that was the dip. It was soaring, and then there was a dip. So there was a dip on Wednesday, but Thursday we got up, back to writing, managed to write 724 words, which I really love it when I just get in there and clickety clack and really use my 30 minutes well. Because, and this will come out in the Friday situation, I can simply do like the bare minimum and just try to use those 30 minutes to get my 500 words in, knowing that I could have done more. So when I get to the 700s, 800s, I know, sometimes even the 600s, where, because it's also not just like, I'm not just typing words, I have to think about what I'm writing. Is the story making sense? Whatever. Even in the 600s, I could have worked well. Even in the 500s and something, I could have worked. But I guess my main point of this ramble, because I am actually rambling now, is that you know when you worked well and you know when you didn't. And I did not work well on Wednesday, but I really worked well on Thursday and wrote my 724 words, which brought the whole word count to 19,039 words. Now, I must say that two of the word counts that I am looking forward to is firstly 20,000. I feel like that's like, whoa, right? Whoa. I'm looking forward to 20,000 words. And I'm also looking forward to writing to the word count for double the words that it took me previously to write in 6 months. So if you're new here, I have been writing this book for 6 months before I started doing this daily, like writing from Monday to Friday for 30 minutes and aiming to write 500 words. I've been doing that for 4 weeks now. But before that, I was writing this book for about 6 months. And during that time, and also I was writing based on vibes and being inspired and whatever. There was no consistency. It was very vibey and a hot mess. And during those 6 months, I managed to write about 10,500 words, 10,578 words to be exact. That's how many words I managed to write. So I'm looking forward to the time when I write double, when I would have written double those words. And it's going to be crazy because in my first week of writing, I managed to write 35% of the words in 1 week, which is really 5 days. In 5 days, I managed to write 35% of the words that took me 6 months to write. So I would like to finish that. I would like to get those words in before the end of the month. The end of, I guess will be like the end of 4.5 weeks is a month. Anyway, so I would like to get that done. So those are the two word counts. This was a slight side note, but those are the two word counts that I'm really looking forward to getting to. So 19,039 words feels or felt surreal, and it's such a big number. So very exciting. Anyway, Friday I did wake up and I did have the slump that I was speaking about previously, where you get up to do the bare minimum and then and I know this when I'm trying to just get the bare minimum to get by, like to just tick my box and having done my work. And that is when I'm looking at the word count. So usually I do turn off the word count because otherwise I'm like focused on it, like, okay, whew, you just need 10 more words to get to 500. So I do try to take it off the screen so that I'm not focused on it. But Friday was basically that, where I was like writing and like just trying to finish, which isn't working well, and that is not pleasing to the Lord. And I completely I'm like, yeah, that was not good. And to top it off, I also did not make my 500 word count aim. I actually only managed to get 432 words in, which what was I doing? Anyway, so I was being very lazy and being very, yeah, I was being very lazy, very like, ugh, which is not great. And I also think is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when you get into a task like, ugh, then you also like in the midst of the task are like, ugh, and it just, the work generally also is ugh. But when you get into a task with joy and gladness and you do it, then that also shows in the work. It shows in how the work comes out as well. So anyway, that was week 4. I managed to write 3,183 words, which is much better. Let me start with that. Is much better than last week's decrease in words. Last week there was a decrease in words of 1,278. And obviously that's not to say I just deleted words. I deleted words and wrote words, and that again is part of this whole process, is that not all the words that I am writing are going to be making it to the final first draft. Lots of words, thousands of words will be lost along the way, and I'm only tracking the net effort or the net words that I've written. Anyway, so I wrote 3,183. I'm like, so many numbers. I do enjoy numbers though. Let me not even lie. I do enjoy numbers. That's why I'm all about them. I do enjoy saying these numbers. Anyway, so I managed to write 3,193 words with a total word count of 19,471 words, which is just like 529 words 529 words away from 20,000 words, which is completely exciting. Yeah, and this is actually 84% of the words that I managed to write over 6 months, which, again, I have to say this every time because I definitely was of the school of like doing quick sprints instead of a slow, plodding faithfulness, which is what this is teaching me. This is a testament to the fact that slow plodding and that fruitfulness that comes from it is worthwhile, and to do so faithfully in light of the Lord. And I have to tell myself that because I have to remind myself of that this is a good thing, that you're getting so much done in 4 weeks, which is really 20 days. I've managed to write 84% of the words that I was writing in these sprints and vibes and when I was feeling motivated, and now in 20 days of writing, whether I feel like it or not. And best believe there are many days when I don't feel like it. Like, I'm just like, oh, can't I just lie in bed for a little longer? And I have to pray with my heart to be like, absolutely not. This is a good task that the Lord has given to you to do. Get up and do it. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of work where I didn't feel like it, and the results of like getting up and doing it well have been really great. The fact that I've written 84% of those 10,578, I think that's the number, words that I wrote over 6 months is honestly a testament to slow, consistent plodding. Anyway, that is week 4. See you next time. Bye.